Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. So boy were we treated to a good night of boxing. Josh Taylor has beat Apinun Khongsong, I think that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if I got it wrong and you can laugh if you want to. But ultimately, Josh Taylor has come through his mandatory with a first round KO. And now apparently Bob Arum has explained that his next fight will be against Jose Ramirez in January or February. Now, Jose Ramirez probably will have to vacate his WBO world title because he has a mandatory, and that is Jack Catterall, so it won't be for undisputed, but the fight will happen. And I mean, undisputed is something we always like to see. We like to see all of the belts on the line, but ultimately, we'll know who is number one in the division. Sometimes there just is no way they can have all of the belts on the line and get the fight done when they can. This fight is a natural fight to make next for both fighters, so can they keep the WBO? Maybe. Can they not? Well, just vacate it if they can't. This is the big fight. This is the big fight for Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. They have a responsibility to deliver the fight for the fighters and for the fight fans. So hopefully that does go ahead next. Bob Arum has been very positive about this fight. And in my opinion, I think that Josh Taylor does have the beating of Jose Ramirez. I think that Josh Taylor at times does get too involved. I think that sometimes he does need to stick to his boxing because he can do that. But we love it when Josh Taylor gets involved. I mean, the best thing for Josh Taylor to do is to maybe box at times. But having said that, the best thing that he can do for us as fight fans is to stand there and trade with his man, like the Prograis fight and the Postal fight. He's just had some incredible fights, and hopefully this Jose Ramirez fight will be another one just like that. I mean, if Josh Taylor carries on like this, the resume that he is going to have is going to be incredible. Maybe his next fight won't be for undisputed, but it will be for the number one position in the super lightweight division. I believe Josh Taylor is already number one in that division. He must beat Jose Ramirez to prove that. And I mean, first round knockout from Josh Taylor. Of course, that looks good, and ultimately, it wasn't the best opponent in there with him, no disrespect, but ultimately, Josh Taylor has been fighting at such a high level that maybe this level is too low for him. Maybe it's just too simple. Ultimately, Josh Taylor got the job done, and he got it done in emphatic fashion. Now going on to a fight with Jose Ramirez, coming off a first round knockout against his mandatory, really proves that Josh Taylor is just levels above many of the fighters in that super lightweight division, and that is a good division. I think that down the line, a Regis Prograis rematch would be incredible for Josh Taylor, a fight that is warranted because that was a close fight and a good fight as well. I think we would all like to see that one be rerun, and I believe Andy Clark of Sky Sports had Prograis winning by 2 rounds in that WBSS final. So there's that kind of controversy and dynamic there. In my opinion, Josh Taylor did win that fight. He was rightfully the WBSS champion, but you have that dispute there. You can create a storyline. So a rematch is bigger than the first fight. So Josh Taylor has these massive fights on the horizon for him, and he is bringing that entertainment back to the super lightweight division. Now, Josh Taylor wasn't the only one who had a fight. It was also Ramirez versus Dorticus for the WBSS final in the cruiserweight division. The IBF title and Ring Magazine title was on the line for that fight, and Ramirez won by a unanimous points decision, where through most of it, he was just too good for Dorticus. I thought that going into this fight, Dorticus was going to present quite a few problems for Ramirez because he's quite rangy and he's quite awkward as well. But Ramirez put in a great performance and outpointed him over the 12 rounds. It was just a shame that there weren't more belts on the line. There was just the IBF and Ring Magazine. But ultimately, I guess we've had one undisputed champion coming out of the WBSS. So ultimately, we've had that before. This was the second season of World Boxing Super Series in the cruiserweight division. Ramirez was in the first one, but he got eliminated by Alexander Usyk, and this time he was able to go all the way and win the series. Considering that last time against Usyk, he gave Usyk probably his toughest test in the World Boxing Super Series. Now, in addition to Josh Taylor and Ramirez versus Dorticus, there was also both Charlo brothers fighting, and they both won. Both on the same card, they both got the victory. Jermall Charlo beat Sergei Derevyanchenko to retain his WBC middleweight title, and he came through some rough patches in that fight. Derevyanchenko is no joke. He's a brilliant fighter and extremely durable, goes to the body extremely well as well. So there were sticky moments in there for Jermall, but ultimately he came through that fight, and he's shown us different dimensions and different abilities that maybe we didn't consider him having before this fight. So Charlo put in a good performance in the middleweight division for that WBC world title. Now, could he go on to maybe a Chris Eubank Jr. fight, maybe a unification fight? Ultimately, Jermell Charlo needs to move on and start having these fights now. Golovkin is a good fight that is there to be made for Charlo. It's just whether they can deal with the dual broadcaster deal and get around that so that they can make this fight happen, because obviously Golovkin is currently fighting on DAZN. So if there is a way around that, then they can do a unification fight. And what a fight that would be. I guess the Chris Eubank Jr. fight is the one that is more likely because they are both on the same platform. So ultimately that is more likely than a Golovkin fight or any other unification fight. But at the end of the day, these big fights do need to happen. Whether they're with different promoters and broadcasters, the fights still should happen. The best should fight the best. And it wasn't just Jermell on this fight card, it was Jermell Charlo as well, who got a KO victory over Rosario. So ultimately now, Jermell Charlo is IBF, WBC, WBA World Champion in the junior middleweight division. And the only belt that is eluding him currently is the WBO belt, which is held by Patrick Teixeira. So maybe that is a fight they could make for Undisputed. Also, there are many other fights out there for Jermell. Maybe Lara, I don't know about that one, but maybe that one. Maybe a Tony Harrison rematch for a third fight, a trilogy. That would be an interesting fight. Hurd is around there, so there are fights for Jermell. I mean, Sergio Garcia is ranked number 2 by the WBC, I believe. And he beat Ted Cheeseman in quite a conclusive fight. So there are big fights out there for Jermell Charlo. But Undisputed would be the biggest one against Patrick Teixeira. Hopefully they can make that fight. That's going to be a very difficult fight for Charlo, but one that he can win. He's proven that with his performance against Rosario. And maybe that is a fight that he can move on to next. It's a natural fight to make. I mean, he's unified champion in the junior middleweight division. The only fight out there that really means anything for him, that has that true meaning and the storyline, is Undisputed. So why not go for that fight next? I mean, of course he's going to want to have a fight maybe in between, but forget about that. I don't really believe in keep busy fights. I believe that they should go for the best while they are at their best, because he's coming off a brilliant performance against Rosario. So why not move on and propel himself to the next level by becoming Undisputed champion, provided he can beat Patrick Teixeira, which will be a very difficult fight, but one that Charlo can win. It's just whether the fight gets made and whether the fight happens. So guys, anyway, we had an epic night of boxing. Josh Taylor gets the victory, KO victory in the first round. Maybe moves on to Jose Ramirez, possibly in January, February, according to Bob Arum. So mega fight on the horizon for Josh Taylor. Again, some big fights he's had in his career. He's not stopping anytime soon. Also, the WBSS Cruiserweight final between Dorticus and Bradis saw Bradis get a unanimous points decision. What's next for Bradis? What is his next move? That will be very interesting because this tournament he has been in twice. The first time gave Usyk his toughest test in that tournament. The second time he has won it. So what his next move will be very interesting. Then we had the Charlo brothers as well, fighting on the same night, both getting the victory. Jermell getting the victory over Derevyanchenko, who has previously been in there with Golovkin. Gave Golovkin an extremely tough fight, but Golovkin just came through that fight. Charlo beat him by points decision, and quite conclusively, although there were some difficult moments in there for him, but he came through them and answered some questions that maybe we had about Jermell. And then his bro was fighting as well, beating Rosario by knockout and then becoming a unified champion in the junior middleweight division. Undisputed on the horizon for Jermell. Possibly, Teixeira fight is there to be made if they can do it. Guys, what a night of boxing. It has been incredible. Boxing is back and we have just had a great night of boxing. Look to the future, let's have some more great fights and some more great events. Guys, anyway, drop your thoughts on this in the comments below, leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.